at harm. I am Supergirl.
Hey guys, just finished watching Supergirl, Season 4, Episode 3, Man of Steel. And what an interesting title for this episode. I really like the title. It really kind of fits perfectly for this episode, even though we don't even have Superman here. We don't have Tyler Hoechlin here. We don't even have Clark Kent here. And I think it's quite interesting to see as to the whole storyline with that, since he's still, I'm assuming he's still off-world, since now the Earth has been irradiated with kryptonite, but just the same way Daxon did it with lead and stuff. And so it's going to be interesting to see as to how they kind of clean up the Earth and stuff, and to see as to where things are going to go with this. So we see that Supergirl, in the beginning of this episode, we see that Supergirl's she's sick and stuff with the kryptonite, and they're figuring that whole thing out. But most of this entire episode is all about Agent Liberty and his origin, and he's, he in the middle just killed the Lockwood steel plant and stuff, and that kind of so he lost his father lost his job, he lost the house, and then during the Daxamite invasion, he lost the house. He lost his job, and then his father died later on during the Daxamite invasion at the end. And then everything just kind of took down, everything just kind of crumbled in front of him. And I don't have really too much points about that, just because it was so good the way they did that. And not too much actually kind of moves forward within this episode. Nothing kind of goes anywhere. We're still with the same cliffhanger from last episode. If you missed this episode, it's not an end, and I would say it's kind of a filler episode, but I didn't mind it too much, just because it was cool seeing his origin. And I guess I would have liked to have seen it maybe throughout a little bit longer and stuff, and kind of focus on it a bit more detail, because I feel a little rushed, but I didn't feel too rushed at the same time. So I think it was very well done as to how they brought you pretty much up to speed in one episode as to how how Agent Liberty, how Ben Lockhart, became who he is, became Agent Liberty. And I think that's quite interesting is to see as to where things are going to go with that. And we see that Mercy Graves actually is introduced, and she talks about someone who's kind of, I guess, paying for them, and so her employer type thing, which I assume is Lex Luthor, and I think that would be pretty cool to see if we end up seeing him. I doubt we'll ever end up seeing Lex Luthor, because I know they offered the role to Lex Luthor from Smallville. There, I forget him, but I forget his name there. But he has the Inside of You podcast there. Michael Rosenbaum, that's his name. But he turned it down because he didn't feel like coming on just for a couple of episodes as Lex Luthor. So I think it'd be cool to see as if we end up seeing him or not. But I think it would be cool to see as to where kind of. If it is kind of Lex Luthor paying this from prison, he's still in prison. We don't really actually see him, but he's just kind of the one who's paying for things via kind of offshore accounts and stuff that Lena Luthor has no idea about. And I kind of like the way things were going with this, and trying to feel for the Lockhart family and stuff, and building up a proper villain type thing, rather than just saying he's just an alien hater for no reason type thing. And actually he started off at the beginning of the episode, he actually defends an alien from the mob, outside of his father's plant. And I think I kind of like that story for him. And to see him kind of change that, just like, in the movie, seeing Tony Stark going from a weapons manufacturer to, who hates the government, to someone who then sees that his weapons are getting into the wrong hands, to building the Iron Man suit, to a civil war, to when he's, working with the government again, come full circle, or Captain America, who, and it's kind of giving that story to Ben Lockhart, Captain America being, representing the America so much, and then kind of, being the iconic, just wearing the flag, and then in Civil War not trusting the government anymore type thing, and even still in an Infinity War. So I think that's really cool how they did that with him, kind of completely changing him and stuff, giving that deep origin and stuff. It was really fun to see as to where things are going to go with all that. Now, I love seeing at the end of this episode, we finally see her in that Comic-Con costume that was revealed back at San Diego Comic-Con. Obviously, this is because Melissa Benoist was busy, was not even on set for the earlier parts of this season, because she was still filming. She was still doing the Broadway show. I'm not sure what it was again, but you can look at her Instagram account and stuff. She has a bunch of old videos and posts about that. So I think it's going to be cool to see as to how much, do we get to see of Melissa Benoist? Did she film stuff when she did show up later on? Is it just going to be her voice over the costume, voiceover that she was able to do once she did show up? Or was she able to send voiceovers, while she was in between doing the player stuff. I imagine not. I imagine she maybe did some ADR later on by the time when she got to set and stuff. I think it's interesting to see that they were still able to film, the first few episodes all the way up to episode 3. The first 2 were filmed with Melissa, and then to see even this one, she was there, but obviously unconscious a little bit. But it's gonna be cool to see as to where things go with this. Now, the other thing I think it's gonna be interesting to see is to go to the Russian Supergirl. What's going on with her? If the whole world is affected, and that's what they said. They have to bring her outside the atmosphere, but they just said everywhere. No one ever said specifically the whole world. So assuming the whole world is, and it's gonna be cool to see how that affects the Russian Supergirl, and to see how that's going to go with that storyline. Now, is it going to be like a Bizarro effect where kryptonite doesn't affect her and actually, powers her up? How is that going to work? I think that's going to be quite interesting to see as to kind of how things are going to go with that storyline and where things are going to go when things come back and stuff. And also to see, hopefully it'd be cool to see Superman try and show up, and maybe somehow the DEO says, no, tells him to stop and stay off world. That could be really cool. Maybe he's about to come in, and I'm not sure, it's unclear. Can John Jones, can he survive out in space? He's from Mars, right? Doesn't have the same atmosphere as Earth, so it'd be cool to see, can he fly out to space and just tell Superman, whoa, stay, you can't get back there? Or would Superman, as he gets closer to it and not in the atmosphere of Earth, once he starts getting just a little bit, would he start to feel it and be like, whoa, I'm going to back off and go? Once he starts to feel a bit sick, then he can back off and just go to the sun and heal himself, type of thing. Which, another thing, if John Jones can fly into space, which I'm assuming he can't, even the pod could fly into space, why don't they just fly into space and throw her in the sun? If you go back to Smallville, which obviously not in the same continuity, but let's just say in Smallville, there was this episode scene, actually Oliver Queen in Smallville ends up shooting Clark when he had no powers, and pretty much killing him. And what John Jones did in that show was fly him into the sun. It ended up wiping him of his power. So why can't he do something like that in here? I think that'd be something to ask. But I guess what they said is that she can't go into space. Even if they took her, she can't go to Argo City. She can't go to, can she not go just take her pod and just fly it into space, and then when you're real close, then just kind of eject from it? Or do they not have contact with Argo City? Can we not get Erica Durant? I can't think of her mother's name, but not get her to come back? And do they not have what kind of Kryptonian technology do they have in there to rid people from kryptonite? And I think that would be something really cool to see, and I need to see her back before the end of this season. So I think it's going to be cool to see as to where things kind of go with all this, and see how things kind of go, and to see, do we see Melissa Benoist in there? So it looks like we're going to see her we saw her in the trailer, but we'll see how that goes and how much we get to do, and see how we play with this whole this whole suit type thing that keeps them, so they didn't have to have Melissa Benoist on set type thing. So I think that's really going to be cool to see as to kind of where things go with all this in the next episodes. So let me know what you think, guys, about this episode in the comments below. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.
I'm Captain America, here to talk to you about one of the most valuable traits a soldier or student can have.
Subscribing.
Sometimes this is the key to victory. Sometimes it leads to very little, and it seems like it's not worth it. And you wonder why you waited so long for something so disappointing. How many more of these?
You're still here.
Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, guys. Peace.
It's over.